Welcome to The Productivity Show, a podcast where we believe you can get the important things done without sacrificing your health, family, and things that matter to you. I'm Brooks Duncan, the COO of Asian Efficiency, where we help people become more productive at work and in life. And today is another Wisdom Wednesday episode where you'll get actionable productivity advice in less than 10 minutes. Today's topic is weekly planning. It's one of the skills we talk about in the 25X Productivity System course. And even if you've tried planning in the past and it didn't work out for you, you're going to get a lot of value out of this episode because the goal of planning isn't to have some perfect schedule that is going to go 100% of the way that you thought it would. Really, the value of planning is the process itself. It's about being intentional with your time instead of just going from crisis to crisis or just checking off random tasks on your to-do list. So, how do you get started? Well, this is going to sound funny, but one of the most important parts of a planning process isn't the act of planning itself. It's choosing when to do the actual planning. It's super important that you pick a realistic time to plan, where you have enough time and won't be distracted. For example, for years and years and years, I've been a big fan of the book and the productivity system, Getting Things Done by David Allen. We've mentioned it a million times on the podcast. And a key part of GTD, as it's known, is the weekly review. You can pair your weekly planning session with that if you'd like. And I'll include some GTD and weekly review resources in the podcast show notes. You can see those at theproductivityshow.com. In the book, David Allen recommends doing your weekly review, weekly planning on Friday afternoon. His reasoning is that you're mostly wound down from the week, but if you need to check in with someone, they're still around before they take off for the weekend. So, that's what the master says. So I tried doing it Friday afternoon and it just did not work for me. I tried multiple times because I thought that's when you were supposed to do it. And I just had so much trouble being consistent. Now, maybe for you, Friday afternoon might work for weekly planning. If it does, great. But maybe it could be Saturday or Sunday morning. That's what worked for me. Or Sunday evening or Monday before work. Really, only you know what time will work the best for you, and it's going to take some experimenting, almost definitely. So if you struggle to be consistent with your planning, this is something we hear a lot, try doing it at different times. It might take a while, but eventually you're going to find one that sticks. All right, so you've chosen when you're going to do your planning, at least for the first time. Now what I want you to do is gather the information that you need. So start with skimming through your notes from the last week. Did you promise anyone anything? Did you capture any tasks that you're going to need to tackle this week? Do you need to schedule anything on your calendar? This isn't like a deep dive. This isn't really poring over every single word. It's just skimming for anything that jumps out. Then do the same thing with your to-do list or your project planner. What must be done this week? What are 3 or so things you want to focus on during the week? So what you're doing is you're finding out what you want to do this week and what you have to do this week. These aren't going to be the only things you do, of course, but you want to pick out those highlights. Once you know what those highlights are, then it's time to build your week. It's time to make time to do what you want to do throughout the week. And you do it by building your week, choosing what you can do given the time and energy constraints that you have, and then deciding roughly when you're going to do them. And this is an area where a lot of people get into trouble. Our eyes are bigger than our stomachs, as they say. We want to pack so much into the week when we do our planning, and then it just ends up with disappointment. So what we want to do is we want to take the opposite approach. We want to look at the appointments and the meetings you already have. How full is your calendar? What time do you have to work with around them? You might want to spend all of Wednesday focusing on your client presentation or some sort of deliverable, but if your Wednesday is already full or you only have a few gaps, you're going to be really, really frustrated and disappointed. So once you know what you have to work with, then it's time to make time for your focus time and your priorities. So that thing that you must do that's identified before, when are you going to do it? Put it on your calendar right now. How about those 3 or so most important tasks that you also identified? When are you going to do them? Block out these on your calendars before that space gets filled up. When it comes to your daily planning, you might have to move stuff around, that's expected, but at least you're being intentional. And like I said before, be careful not to jam your calendar too full. You can always add things later. It's a lot easier to add things to your calendar later than trying to have to make too many decisions on the fly. And it's just demoralizing when things just don't work out the way that you hope they would. It's better to add than subtract. You want to have a positive productivity spiral whenever possible. Go from win to win to win. Finally, what you want to do is look at an overview of your schedule. Is there anything that you can drop or move around to give you more time and space for your priorities, or to leave more margin time for things that are going to inevitably come up throughout the week? Looking at your schedule for the week, is there anything at risk? Did you maybe put a focus block right after a meeting you know is just going to be killer? Chances are you're not going to have the energy to do that focus right after, so maybe you want to move it somewhere else. Are you trying to wedge a 2-hour task into a 45-minute time slot? That might be okay as long as you understand that going in, that you might not complete it. Again, it's better to go into things with your eyes open than to be disappointed and frustrated later on. So that's the weekly planning process. Just remember, there's always going to be things that come up during the week that are probably going to mess up your beautiful plans. That's okay. At least you have a roadmap to make progress. I mean, a few weeks ago, I had my week all planned out and then I broke my hand. So much for those plans, right? Things had to change. Now, you might not break your hand doing a coastal hiking trip. I hope you don't, but something is bound to come up that is going to mess up your plans, but that's okay. At least you'll be able to hit more than otherwise you might have. Another thing that will probably happen is at first, you're probably going to way overestimate what you can do during the week. Again, that's totally normal. We all do it. But the more you do it, the better you'll get at it and the more accurate you'll be. So just stick with the process and give it a chance to work. Once you're good at planning your week, what you can do is add in a quick process of looking back at your week and apply lessons learned to that coming week so that you're consistently improving. But that's like a level 2 thing. So here's how to get started. Schedule a time right now to make your weekly plan. Don't overthink it. Just grab your phone, fire up your calendar app, and schedule a time to do this week's plan. Then when that time comes, plan out when you're going to accomplish your most important task for the week. Then you can improve and iterate from there. Thanks so much for listening to The Productivity Show, and I will see you next time.